So, thank you everyone for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedules. It's a really important topic to get all of us out together, working together. In case there's anyone here that doesn't know who we are, this is Greening USA is hosting this meeting, and we've been around since 2004, and we're a 501c3 educational nonprofit in New York State. All of us are volunteers, and so if anyone feels so inclined to become a member or donate to help us pay for our very modest bills, we would be so grateful. But once again, thanks for coming, and take it away, John.
Thanks, Diana. I should probably say that I am John Prespiora. I'm also on the board of Greening USA uh, and have been since the founding of it approximately 20 years ago. And as as a couple of ground rules, and maybe I should say before I turn it over to let people introduce themselves, is please try to keep your microphone muted, and I see most of you are, until you're called on to speak. We will be watching the chat, so if questions come up, during the presentation, we'll try to pay attention to them and address them as necessary. So before I give you a little bit of overview of what we're going to do today, let's go around the room, and so we know who's here, your name, your organization, because today's meeting is about organizations, the organizations that are trying to work together. So it'd be important for all of us to know what organizations are here. I'm not quite sure how to do this. Maybe I should call on people from my screen. And the next person I see is Ria Jazer.
Hi, Ria Jazer. I am the president of Energy 21, which is a not-for-profit. We work specifically on clean renewable energy, and we're going into our 20th annual symposium, which many of you attend. I'm also the chair of the Sierra Club Central Northern New York group, CNNY, here in our area here, among other things.
Thank you, Maria. Peter Sarver.
Hi, I'm the convener for Moving People Transportation Coalition. I've been doing that for about 10 years, and I'm trying to engineer a generational change. We've now got a board chair, and that's Alec Lawson. And we've shifted our focus, not entirely, but from the I-81 project to enhancing public transportation, of course, of which sustainability is a central foundation.
Thanks, Peter. Dick Kornbluth.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dick Kornbluth, and I'm a member of the coordinating committee of the CNY Solidarity Coalition.
Thank you. James O'Connor.
Hi, I'm with Sustainability Syracuse, a small group with Dennis Brogan, and just interested in hearing what you guys have to say.
James, I couldn't quite hear clearly the group that you're
with. Sustainability Syracuse.
Ah, okay, great. Thank you very much. Peter King.
Hello, my name is Peter King. I'm with a couple of groups, Moving People Transportation Coalition and Urban Jobs Task Force. I'm here for those interests, I guess, in terms of Micron.
Great, thank you, Peter. Aitana.
Hi, y'all. I'm Atana Jacoby. I work with IUECWA. We're the manufacturing division of the Communication Workers of America, and I'm running our semiconductor campaign. And we're also members of CHIPS Communities United. Excited to be with y'all.
Yeah, thanks for coming out today. Appreciate it. David Sonnefeld.
Good morning, everyone. David Sonnenfeld. I'm not here as an organizational affiliate, but an interested party. Looking forward to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Don Hughes.
Unmute. Hi, I'm Don Hughes. I'm with the Sierra Club, the CNNY chapter. I'm the conservation chair for that group. I also help with sustainability at Lemoyne College and am involved with the CNY Solidarity.
Thank you. Scott Kushner.
Oh, sorry, I had to unmute. Hi, I'm Scott Kushner. I'm on the board of Green USA, and I've been a member for many years. I guess my main function at this point has been is to do some tabling events, any community events to try and get out there and help raise the awareness in the community.
Thank you, Scott. Peter McCarthy.
Yeah, I am, along with Dick Kornbluth, I'm on the coordinating committee for CNY Solidarity. I would encourage everybody to sign up for our weekly newsletter, which has events like this listed on your email every Tuesday, cnysolidarity.org. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, thank you. Judith Barish.
Yeah, hi, I'm Judith Barish. I am the campaign coordinator for CHIPS Communities United.
Right.
Thank you. iPhone. I don't know who iPhone is. Somebody on the phone?
Can we call you I?
That might be me, John. It's Frank Moses. I'm not sure if I'm coming through. I'm with the Skinny Atlas Lake Association and also a member of Greening USA and have an interest in a lot of the smart growth related to development pressures that come from large corporations coming in and mitigation solutions to alleviate any of those pressures and to do things more intelligently.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. No, you are coming through fine. Your name is appropriately displayed. We still have somebody who's on the phone that was muted. So unless you got two devices going.
I do. Yeah, I'm zooming in through the app where I can see folks. I just parked and I had to dial in through my phone, and I'm switching over to the office computer pretty shortly. But I
all right. Well. Thanks for thanks for taking the effort to be with us, Kayla Miller.
Hi. So sorry, I was at a separate work event. Okay. Hi, sorry. So I'm an energy advisor for Alliance for Green Economy. I'm mostly just here to learn today.
Can you say an energy advisor for what? I couldn't understand that.
Yeah, sorry. I'm an energy advisor for Alliance for a Green Economy.
Great.
Yep. So we're a nonprofit, and our whole thing is trying to get people off of fossil fuels because it is bad for our health.
Thank you. Tom, from Climate Reality.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Tom Hirosuna. I'm the co-chair of the Finger Lakes chapter of Climate Reality Project, which is Al Gore's group of climate advocates. And we're in the central New York area. That's our area. And we have pockets of activity in Ithaca, Binghamton, and Rochester, trying to get more connections in Syracuse. And this is my first meeting for this group and trying to connect a little bit more with you folks.
Thanks for coming. Jonelle?
Hi, I'm Janelle Robinson. I am a geography professor at Syracuse University, and I run the Syracuse Community Geography Program, which works with coalitions and community-based organizations such as yourselves to do mapping and spatial analysis and geographic research more broadly.
Thank you for being here. Bob Haley?
Yes, thank you. Good to see everyone. I just have a long interest in smart, sustainable planning, whether it's in all aspects. I come from an architectural background and have the Urban Design Center of Syracuse on transportation, but essentially sustainable and smart use of existing resources such as buildings and obviously natural resources. And I'm a member of all the groups, I think, on the board, almost, sorry.
Great, thanks. I do have a question for you. I mean, if you're representing a particular organization as far as the involvement in the coalition, you don't have to answer that right now, but
at this point, no. But thank you. At this point, no. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. All right, I gotta flip pages here, and it might get everything changed. I may miss a few people. Annette Hogan.
Hi, I'm a member of the Climate Reality Project.
Thank you for being here. And Bill Chadwick.
Thank you, John. A longtime member of Greening USA, a number of local organizations, mainly like Baltimore Woods and the Land Trust. I think I'm representing today the Care for Our Common Home Task Force from All Saints Parish. We're very much trying to green our parish, and we want to see this project with Micron assist in that and not take it away.
Thank you, Bill. Yvonne Chu.
Hey, everybody. Yvonne Chu. I am president of Climate Change Awareness and Action, and I also work for the Onondaga Earth Corps. Both groups have been involved with Greening USA over the last few years.
Thank you. Barry Carr.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Barry Carr. I'm the director of Clean Communities of Central New York. We are an outreach organization funded by the U.S. Department of Energy related to the use of cleaner fuels, cleaner vehicles, and cleaner technologies in transportation, and former sweet mate of Diane's.
You'll have to explain that later. Andra Agree.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andra Lehmanis, and I'm the program director at Alliance for a Green Economy. You already heard from Kayla today. She is an energy advisor with our Energy Smart CNY component. Agree works statewide on promoting a green energy economy. We do public education about renewable energy and energy efficiency. And we also advocate for legislation that will help us make a rapid and equitable and affordable transition to renewable energy and clean heating and cooling for buildings. We're members of and we work in various coalitions and campaigns, such as with Urban Jobs Task Force, the New York Energy Democracy Alliance, and Renewable Heat Now, with which we're mobilizing for a big rally and lobby day in Albany on January 23rd for the New York Heat Act.
Great, thank you. Dave Mankiewicz.
Hi, Dave Mankiewicz, longtime with Center State CEO and city planner.
Great, nice to see you, Dave. Tyler Worrell.
Hello, everybody. Sorry if you can't see me that well. It's a little blurry. My name is Tyler Worrell. I am the executive director for the Urban Jobs Task Force. We have a few members on the call here, so I'm happy to see you all here today. We advocate for and with disadvantaged Syracuseans for equitable economic opportunities. I'm excited to be a part of the coalition, and my hopes are that we can help each other to advocate through policy and legislation for more equitable opportunities for our people. I'm hoping that the data that we collect also informs some forward movement with things that we're trying to do in regards to Micron. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Glenn Coyne. Maybe Glenn is busy right now. I can tell all of you, and maybe all of you recognize Glenn's name. He's a journalist for our local news organization, Syracuse.com and the Syracuse Post Standard. So I appreciate Glenn coming out to cover our meeting. William Thayer. Don't hear from William. He's still muted. and Ben Larson.
Ben Larson, Educational Director for AIA Central New York chapter. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. I think that's everybody. I don't think that there are 3 pages. If I've missed anybody, and we would love to know who you are and what organization you're here. So raise your hand or however you need to let us know. But without further ado, let me begin to tell you to introduce what we're planning to do today. But the point of the meeting today is the rest of you, and not necessarily hearing from a speaker to educate you. But we do have what I would call a guest speaker as well. But let me just give you a little bit of the background, because some of you may not have been with us from the beginning in July of last year, when we got together with the various groups in the community to talk about the coming of the Micron project. Several of our organizations met, and we knew that the environmental review was going to get kicked off anytime. So we wanted to understand that. Some of us were invited by Micron to attend, a meeting to hear directly from them of their plans relating to particularly sustainability, some, environmental justice issues and things like that were discussed. But we subsequently did cooperate and collaborate on preparing comments on the scoping phase of the draft environmental impact statement, and we did submit comments, to the Onondaga County Industrial Development Agency, who was the lead agent on that project. Subsequently, the final scope has been issued, and I think most of you did receive notice about that, either directly or from us at Greening USA, working as a tentative CNY Sustainability Coalition. So, the main driver for our getting together has been the Micron, but the primary components of the past, 6 months have been, in addition to Greening USA, the Sierra Club, through Don Hughes' efforts, CNY Solidarity through Dick Kornbluth's efforts, and CCAA, the Climate Change Action and Awareness. Peter Worth has been an assist as well in this whole process of putting the comments together. And when we talked about, okay, how do we go forward, we tentatively came up with the name for the collaboration of the CNY Sustainability Coalition. And we did spend a little bit of time trying to figure out how to formalize our relationship, or even discussing if we should formalize our relationship. But as most of you might realize, doing that kind of meta planning is not the most satisfying thing to do. It takes a lot of work and effort. We'd rather talk about technical issues and the crises or the issues that we're faced with. And so we haven't really been able to come total to grips with it. We noticed that there were some problems with, how do we pull this together? And so we decided that here at the beginning of the year, it would be important to get the group together to talk about some of the hurdles and discuss how to make this coalition somewhat more formal, if not a fully formalized coalition, but to have something in place that forms the framework of our working together. So today we want to hear your ideas to help to determine how to best do that. we have all heard the recurrent refrain that we're all in our own silos. And so we decided it's time to try to break down the silos and turn them into action. And it's not that we haven't worked together in the past. Greening USA has worked with most of you in the past. And in a sense, we've been cooperating and collaborating for close to 20 years. So we do appreciate that, whether you've come and presented at our green bag lunches or collaborated on attending our Zoom events when the pandemic hit. So let me just say, we have a couple of specific overarching objectives or questions, key questions that we'd like to hear from, to get your thoughts on today. And one might be, do you prefer a more or less formal structure? Secondly, how best to structure the leadership for convening or facilitating the group's actions? Third, should the coalition be limited to organizations, or is there room for non-affiliated individuals to be involved? And maybe specifically number 4, what mechanism would work for everybody to get an organization sort of signed on to the coalition just for the record, right? So so those are kind of the key things that we need to get to in order to move forward. Now, before we let you jump in and discuss these questions and this issue, we're going to hear from our guest speaker, Rand Wilson, and then I will outline a straw man proposal for how we get things started here for the coalition. And then Diane will add to that straw man proposal by talking a little bit about the coalition's vision, mission, and values that we are part of the formation of that coalition. But without, let me just introduce Rand, and then I'm going to turn it over to him. Rand Wilson lives in Somerville, Massachusetts. He's a labor organizer for various unions and has written and lectured widely about contract campaign strikes, healthcare reform, and strategies to build workers' power. He's involved with several organizations, including the ICA group, which promotes and assists the worker ownership sector of our economy. Rand is also the organizer and the spokesman for the CHIPS Communities United, a coalition organizing for the responsible and equitable implementation of the CHIPS Act. Rand was gracious enough to join us last month at our Greening USA Green Bag Lunch on the CHIPS Act specifically, and we're happy to have him with us today to share his thoughts about organizing and how to get it done and what's at stake, perhaps. So, Rand, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, John, and thanks for that very, very flattering introduction. I'll be brief. I spoke with many of you at the last meeting about CHIPS Communities United. I just want to say one thing, which is this is an amazing assembly of environmental and community groups in central New York and close to the Syracuse and Micron area. So it's really important what you're doing here. And you've got a lot of work to do to firm this up. I'm looking forward to hearing the straw proposal and the eventual outcome of your work. I want to point out that I'm joined by Judith Barish, who's on the Zoom, who is a colleague of mine, recently come on staff of CHIPS Communities United, and a key coalition partner Etana Jacoby, who's with IUE CWA and also on our steering committee for CHIPS Communities United. Just for those of you that haven't heard the rap, CCU, CHIPS Communities United, is a coalition of labor, environmental, and some national policy organizations to help or assist communities that are hosting a government subsidized semiconductor facility like Micron. So we want to help those communities build power in their community, assist in any way we can to help bring people together, provide technical and scientific experts about the issues, or workforce development leaders to assist on that end of it. So we have some national folks that can help. We want to see communities build their power and gain leverage with Micron or with the semiconductor facility at hand, to ensure that our government tax dollars result in the good jobs, safe working conditions, and the clean environment that these industries are promising. So we're putting up, collectively as taxpayers, we're putting up $53 billion to encourage this onshoring. We want to make sure that investment yields something more than just, corporate America and the executives and shareholders pocketing the profits for themselves. So that's the plan, is to build power, gain leverage, and win specific agreements from industry. The other role for CCU is to knit together the communities so that I see a hand up. Just give me one more minute, Ray. Thanks. Oh, no, you're talking to somebody else. Okay.
That's what I want to say, though. Sorry.
Got it. The other key thing that we can do is to knit together the host communities so that you're sharing your experience with people in Boise, Idaho, who also work for Micron and are facing an expansion of their chip facility there, and that you're also sharing information with the other communities that are working with Intel or with TSMC or with Global Foundries or any number of other companies that are engaged in a similar process. So we see that as really an important opportunity to bring people together. The last thing that we're doing is, we want to be a voice for the communities at the national policy level with the Department of Commerce, with the NIST, and with Congress to help make sure that your concerns are heard in the halls of power. I hope Judith and Etana might unmute themselves and fill in for whatever it is that I didn't say, and then want to just give everybody a heads up to save the date for February 7th, when we will do a second national briefing, and all of you should be invited and encouraged to attend that national briefing. So I'll stop there. This is it's just great to be here. It's a great group. And maybe Judith or Etana have something to add, and then you guys can get back to your business of building your local power and gaining the leverage that we need. Thank you.
Thanks, Rand.
I have very little to add to what you said, Rand, but I just want to introduce myself. I'm Judith. I'm the campaign coalition coordinator. You can reach me at info@chipscommunitiesunited.org. And Etana just put our website up on the chat too, so please check it out. I guess I would just add that the return of industrial policy as embodied in the CHIPS Act is an amazing opportunity to use the power of our government for good, for improving sustainability, for creating good quality jobs for people who need them in distressed areas, for guaranteeing childcare so we can diversify the workforce and promoting economic equity,
Yes.
And that's all written into the language of the CHIPS Act. But in the current moment, with diminished public sector legitimacy and outsized corporate power, there's always the danger that gigantic expenditures of money like this can end up being corporate welfare rather than actually fulfilling their goals. And so we want to work with you to make sure that the voices of communities and community-based organizations that might otherwise be left out of public decision-making are part of the process. So we can demand to make sure that Micron's entry into your region is democratic, is accountable, benefits workers, benefits the environment, benefits local communities.
Oh, I didn't leave anything out, did I?
Thanks, Judith. Good hearing from you. And I should say that Judith was with us also last month when we were talking in general about the stakes for the bringing the CHIPS Act to fruition. So this group's so the need, as you can see, is this Micron in and of itself and the CHIPS Act is a complex issue beyond the expertise of any single person. I would say, who's in this room or working in the community. And sustainability in and of itself, in general, Micron and CHIPS aside, is a complex set of constraints and actions that we have to take. So working together is kind of an important thing. And one of the things that Greening USA has kind of found out over the years is the number of volunteers that we had to kind of pull off our own mission seems, diminishes over time. The same group of 5 is available to try to continue to mission. So new blood is necessary, and expertise of others is critical. If we want to continue to educate about sustainability in our community. So when the Micron project got announced, we kind of realized that we needed to work with others directly because we needed that expertise that was existing in other places. So we rolled up our sleeves and said, let's try and work together. And so, but as I said earlier, formalizing this relationship is something that we have talked about, but haven't really been able to come to grips with. And we really need to know from all of you whether we should try to formalize this relationship and how to do it. So my straw man proposal has like 4 components to it. And let me just read through them. It's very short. So number 1, so the group continues in the near term as an informal organization of members formally requesting or pledging to participate via a sign-on letter. So that would be kind of step 1. We need to know from you, do you want to be a participant? Secondly, the group would be led by a steering committee of, say, 3 to 5 representatives from different organizations, or possibly they could be a non-affiliated individual as well. So a steering committee. Number 3, the steering committee will take responsibility for facilitating the actions of the group and be responsible for communicating with the full group to inform and obtain input on matters relating to actions undertaken under the auspices of what we've been calling the Central New York Sustainability Coalition. And 4th, and finally, on my list of straw man aspects, any additional procedures or rules governing such matters as the actions and composition of the coalition will be developed later at the discretion of the steering committee with input and concurrence from the members of the entire group. So in a nutshell, the Central New York Sustainability Coalition is initiated as an entity with little in terms of procedures except for a steering committee to direct the actions. And later on, if deemed necessary by the steering committee or as determined from input from the entire group, that there needs to be more formal structure, procedures, and rules of engagement, that those will come later for all of us to consider and adopt. So that would be how I would suggest we keep moving forward with this. Certainly another aspect of this is what we see as this group's mission and what the group's values should be to be a participant. So this is kind of a vision. And for hearing about that, I'm going to ask Diane if she'd be kind enough to present that today. Next year. Diane, are you out there?
Thanks. I am here. So thanks, John, for the really easy job, because I'm guessing just about everyone here is going to buy into and has bought into, you know, a mission and a vision and goals and values, you know, very similar to each other for years. I mean, we've been at it for decades, and I'm sure a number of you have as well. So, you know, Green USA developed a mission that's really sounds simple, which is that we advocate for sustainable communities to the benefit of local economies and environments. And that sounds really simple. And it's really complicated. And I think we all know that, because under each one of these headings, you have a really complicated mix of issues. Environmental health, and what does that mean? Environmental justice, which means something else entirely. Human health, one of the things that I am most concerned with is human health. Economic justice, for sure. Social justice. These are all different and really complicated issues, and I'll bet just about everybody on this meeting would agree that these would be mutually shared, you know, values that we would all pursue. I think the overarching goal is advocacy. So we advocate and we educate, and what we're trying to do is get this information to the public. And that's the challenge, because the more voices we have, the more likely we are to be heard. So this group really needs to figure out how to get this message out. Dick Kornbluth, yes. You have your hand up.
I do have my hand up. I think that your 12 traits is a great starting point, because it actually fleshes out, you know, the complexity of what you talked about, but it actually breaks it down into sectors where you actually have general definitions of what the goals are. And I have always thought this is a great document because of its breadth.
Well, I just happen to have that list that I could share quickly.
That's what I was going to suggest, Diane.
And there it is. So many years ago, when we first formed this organization, we put together what we call the 12 Traits of Sustainable Communities. This is not anything that we invented. These are best practices that we gathered up from all over the country. And, you know, in some cases all over the world. So what we're looking for is government leadership in sustainability, local economic resilience, sustainable land use planning and resource preservation, sustainable transportation and mobility systems, water-related infrastructure systems. Water is going to be a huge issue with this project. Green building and housing, which is really where Greening USA was born, was in the design and construction industry. Energy from non-fossil fuels, waste material management, local culture, art, and entertainment, quality public education that also teaches sustainability, public health and safety. You know, if you're in the world of architecture, you have to earn continuing credits in health, safety, and welfare, which really covers it. Health, safety, and welfare. And then community engagement, which is really all of us. So this is the principles that guide our organization for many years. One want to jump in there and talk? Oh, Frank, you have your hand up.
Just a couple thoughts as we're speaking about things categorically, and I'm wondering, maybe this is for Rand and Judith, related to all the different impact sectors that other communities are facing that they're working of. Are there categories of mitigation? Obviously, there's the labor and quality of life components as well, the economic components. But in terms of the environment, you know, where are these different sectors of natural resource use, like the water, where these might match up with some of these traits that Diane just mentioned. The other is, you know, land use, like I think Bill mentioned he's with the, you know, representing interests from the land trusts. So different land use components, but where these things might mesh up, and that might give us, and I know I'm 10 steps down the road, but that might allow different subsets of us to glom on to some you know, subcommittees or task force that are related in those sectors, if that makes sense.
Did you want a quick response?
Yeah, sure, please. Yeah, and something maybe as for follow-up is, you know, we're formulating you know, the structure of this and opportunities for the group.
You know, we hope to have, CCU hopes to have some working groups where people from local communities can plug in around the issue that motivates or inspires them. So we're kind of in the process of formulating that. So I think that's something you can look forward to as our work and your work evolves.
So let me just follow up on that. So a working group on a particular technical, economic or developmental segment of the problem, if you will, that people can share resources. Yeah,
exactly. And we want to open those groups up to people like yourselves, and then staff those groups with volunteers who have particular expertise in that area. For example, right here in this room, David Sonnenfeld, you know, is a nationally known expert on PFAS and electronic industry pollution threats. So he might be holding down a group, but people from all over the country might be participating with him on a PFAS committee or something like that. So that's just an example.
Yeah, no, exactly. And to some degree, the few organizations that have come together over the past 6 months have talked about a similar thing. So how does this big coalition work here? Certainly all of us can't be involved in everything, but there may be several members of the coalition that will get together and work on a project that will, and then keep the total coalition sort of informed about it in order to gain support. And so there would be these sort of, expert technical working groups that might, form as part of the coalition, so that the group can support each other to get the mission done.
I wanted to, if I can jump quick in, if I may, John. I want
Yes,
to change
yes, you may. As a matter of
Yeah,
fact,
and
and I
this is
appreciate that,
for
Don, that you're doing that because we are in that phase of our meeting, the discussion phase. And I just want to point out, I think Rand has to leave us at about 1 o'clock, so we might lose his input at that point.
Well, all I wanted to say was really very short, and it's for Rand and those so-called outsiders to our Central New York community. Rand, welcome in, by the way. We did hear you last month and the last 2 months. Essentially, I just want to champion or second Dick's comment and Diane's leadership of the 12 traits as a kind of skeleton for our community at this stage, not as a final solution, but for all the diverse groups in the room and everyone that we can get to look at the 12 traits to align with the different segments of the 12 traits as an overriding kind of structure that we can then continue the dialogue from. The 12 traits is very strong. It's very much based not just on a single point of view, that's its strength, and yet it's based on sustainable thinking and sustainable cultural. So I just simply want to say what Dick was saying. Let's use the 12 traits as a potential skeleton for all of our groups to come together to, go into, find their sweet spot in the 12 traits, and then build from that. It's just an exercise. Thanks.
Thanks, Bob. We have Peter McCarthy, who's had his hand up for a while.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks, Diane. Yeah, I want to thank Rand and Judith for the emphasis that their organization is putting on environmental fairness and the concern that big government programs and big corporations tend to funnel money from the general population to the very wealthy. And that's a major concern. And that when we think of sustainability, we first think of environmental sustainability. But I think that kind of economic fairness and sustainability is reflected in the 12 traits and needs to be thought of as a very important part of this group's mission. Thanks.
I see others have their hands up as well. Peter Sarver and then Don Hughes.
I'd like to go back to your first point having to do with moving the informal to a formal. Would the goal be to get a list of organizations to sign on and to be willing to be public supporters of the Sustainability Coalition? And what happens with individuals? And this, I don't want to get into the technical side, but Moving People has, I think, 73 individual supporters. Would we want those 73 individual supporters to also have the option of signing on as individual supporters? I mean, so that there's a display of a mass movement of folks from the various organizations that we represent.
I guess I would look to what would your opinion be on the answer to that question?
The more the merrier.
Okay, so you think that the group should be structured with as many people as possible, even though, say, the Moving People Transportation Coalition in and of itself is a group of individuals. Those individuals might also sort of sign on as members of the Sustainability Coalition, whereas another model would be that the Moving People Transportation Coalition would be a member of the coalition, but not necessarily all of those individuals that might be working in that technical group of transportation with your leadership.
And I think the significant follow-up question is, who's going to be responsible for communicating the broad range of actions, activities, information posts, or whatever? And should that database be based on organizations sharing for that information with their, individual groups, or should there be a central repository for sending out messages to the band of merry people here?
those are good questions. Need some resolution. Absolutely. I said Don Hughes had his hand up. Don.
Let me unmute. So I just want to observe how many folks are here today, and a great range of knowledge and expertise in many different things. I would love to hear from folks as to what they're working on. And I think that Greening USA can be a great forum moving forward to help keep the conversation going, because we're all working in our, Diane mentioned silos. We can start sharing on a monthly basis what our projects are, keeping us busy, and that I think will help facilitate the conversations between the different groups. And one other point I want to make is that organizing labor is here on the national level, but not really on the local level. We need to engage with those folks locally.
Yeah, that's a good point, Don. I did kind of late in the organizing and notification of this meeting, I did reach out to contact person I found on the local federation, labor federation website. So hopefully we can continue to try to engage them and obtain their involvement. So good point. I see Dick Kornbluth has his hand up.
Yeah, this is a response to Don and to Peter. All your issues are important, but I think as John has laid out, there's like a fundamental question that has to be answered. And I just want to bring us back to that basic question is, do we want a more formal structure? Because within the formal structure, Peter, is the questions that you have raised. Those things can get answered. You know, do we have organizations only? Do we have organizations and individual members? All of those things are in the weeds. But before you even get to that conversation, we have to decide whether we want to create something or just go, right now, there's been a ton of information that has been flying back and forth within this very informal group of small group of organizations. And all of that is really valuable data, and it needs to be disseminated to a much larger group, and that has to happen within some structure. And so I really want to get back to the basic question and see what we want. If we want to create that structure, and if we say yes, then we can start getting into what that looks like. But until we make that decision, I don't know where we go from here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dick. And unless somebody's got their hand up, while I'm trying to watch two screens here, I will say that in terms of to create that first step, now perhaps what we need to do is send a question out to your organizations and perhaps some of the individuals that are here, although I think I want to reserve judgment on whether it should be a group of many individuals. I'm thinking mostly it's a group of organizations and work through the structure of the various organization members, but I would not dismiss the option of having several key sort of technical consulting style individual members to be part of the group to support its mission. But having said that, what I was going to suggest is maybe what we need is to send a request. Maybe it's a questionnaire that says, is your organization willing, or will you sign on? And if so, submit your board's resolution just to affirm that to us. Do you want to volunteer to be on the steering committee? Yes or no? And but at least we know whether your organization is in and whether you want to be on the steering committee. I don't know that there might be another question or two that is on that kind of a questionnaire. But then when we receive those things back, we will know that there are X number of organizations that want to work together or that are willing to work together under the title, which we're using, is CNY Sustainability Coalition. I'm certain that name is probably up for discussion or change, but that's kind of the working title at this point. So that would be kind of maybe I should add that to kind of my straw proposal, that there would be a questionnaire sent out to obtain the appropriate feedback to know whether we have gotten over the first hurdle.
So
responses, whatever.
John, I was just thinking if we could have maybe a guidance of some basic consensus of the goal of this group as part of that communication. So it's to be educated on these issues, and it's to address to ensure sustainability. Something that's that gives folks a sense of the overarching goal of this coalition, and maybe that's a vision statement or something initially basic that folks get a good sense of this. And I think that you've communicated that obviously to why we're all here too. So
no, good, good question. I did make some notes as part of the vision, mission, and values statement, and I wrote it kind of this way. This proposed organization will work in concert to support the work and missions of the other organizations when asked to do so and when possible. Such support may result in the form of an action directly under the auspices of the Central New York Sustainability Coalition and/or by action undertaken by member organizations of the coalition. And a second corollary to that, by working together, the mission and actions of one organization can be amplified and strengthened through the synergistic action. So kind of that's like that was my simple statement of what the members, roles and responsibility of the entire group are to the other members.
Frank put another good point in the chat, which is that when we send out this survey to organizations, that we should include other organizations that we're aware of that are not on this call.
Yeah, I suppose that might be, we might not, in order to do that search, it may not be as simple as it sounds, but I suppose that would be the kind of feedback that we could get in the initial cut of the survey is, are there other organizations that should be contacted that you are aware of that you would recommend be contacted for this? So that would be a third piece of information that we could gather doing such as a survey.
Yeah.
Good question.
And I'm not sure the other boat folks are in, but my sense is having something to go back to our respective leadership, whether it's if we have other executive committees or boards that would want to raise their hand saying, yes, we're going to participate in this, having something to go with them to giving the essence. I think I have a good sense of this. So that's I'm not sure if anybody else is in need of something like that, to sign on at this point too.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. And that's, I guess a good outcome of this meeting is that hopefully that all of you have a good sense of what we're trying to do. I think one of the things we've struggled with over the past few months was, well, how much definition do we give to this effort? And sometimes the effort to create the definition in order to get the buy-in would just delay, working as with as a group together. And so I've come to kind of believe that it's probably important to just get off the dime with something, even if it's informal at the beginning, and maybe it remains informal down the road. That's why when I talked about what my straw man is, I talked about it, that it's kind of a loose confederation, but we agree to work together. We agree that the name CNY Sustainability Coalition is that you want to be a part of it, and you voice that, and we can work out all those details as we go down the road. If there's more details, as people ask those kinds of questions, Frank, how do and try to get an answer.
Yeah, and it seems like this is to just to simplify a little bit of the statement. This is a group to to be to educate, to engage, to leverage each other's interests, organizational interests, whether it's the mission, to leverage our missions, or that you captured there, and then to mobilize or to advocate for a better community, something to that degree, and to pick up on what Don Hughes was mentioning is, and I think maybe Peter touched on, was the individual roles, and at this point it seems to me that if there's opportunities down the line, if there's advocacy and communications that would want on specific issues that's related to that, if it's close to our different missions, to send, to advocate, have our constituents or our stakeholders of our mission be able to communicate to decision makers through at an advocacy level, and that's how we could mobilize the individuals as one option too, and the education and opportunities too.
Yeah, absolutely. When the Greening USA's board was talking about this meeting, one of the points that we brought up was that we would love to give all of you the opportunity to be presenters at what we do as our regular monthly public education session called Green Bag Lunch, that you all have expertise in various areas and concerns, and give you the opportunity to organize a presentation and present it, like we did with Frank. You might remember about a year ago with the Skinny Atlas Lake Association. So yeah, the opportunity to share education, I think, is an important value of such an organization. I see that I think Rand has left us. I didn't get the opportunity to thank him for being here today and for his remarks. So while we're being recorded, I will say thanks to Rand for his remarks, and it'll forever be on the digital sphere of our YouTube channel. How about on the other questions, comments? We have a little time left that we planned, but if people feel that they have quite an understanding of where we're going and what the next step might be.
We have two more hands raised, but just quickly, I think it was Dick Kornbluth that set up a Google group, and on a drive where so there's a mailing list, and then there's also a Google Drive where we can do information sharing. Information sharing would be a really important part of this coalition. And already, the emails are coming in and with newspaper articles and information about legislation. Is that true? Am I speaking out of turn, Dick?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want to preempt Peter or Donald. I just want to respond to Diane.
No, go ahead.
So there's two things. There's a Google Drive location for documents, but I thought that emails are a little bit of an awkward way to communicate back and forth. So I found essentially a free listserv that we can use called Gaggle email, Gagg excuse me, LE, and so far there's 5 of us signed up, and I think Diane's used it, and Dave has used it, and Don Hughes has used it. I took a look at it today. It's completely free, but if you want to save and add files, you then have to subscribe. And I don't know, David, how you managed to get a file up there, because unless you were a subscriber, according to their rules, you can't add files without a subscription, but you actually have a file sitting up there. So I'd like to know how you did that. In any case, I thought it's basically a listserv, which is a little bit of an easier way to go back and forth and communicate with each other. So, so that's an option that's already set up and is available. And just for back and forth communication, I think it has some advantages over email, which can clutter up your emails client really fast. And then there is the Google Drive location, and I'm happy to make that available to anybody who wishes to be there. And that's a repository for essentially a repository for documents. I did not create a Google group because I think you have to be a Google user to be in a Google group. So I didn't want to go that route. So that's why I looked for another platform.
So my question is looking toward the end of 2024. We're in January. November is going to come very quickly, despite the fact that it seems day by day to drag on some of these issues. But sustainability is going to be a critical public policy agenda. And I think there will be a Democratic primary for the congressional seat. And then, of course, there'll be the general election where a Democrat and a Republican will be exchanging their views. And would one activity that we might want to look forward to, because I know there's a lot of activists or people with activist bent, is some kind of taking the lead role in terms of holding congressional candidates particularly accountable for what we might anticipate their behavior would look like once elected.
Are you suggesting a forum, Peter?
Well, a forum, or I mean, that's certainly clearly one way in which, but lacking a forum, you can do critical questions and see if you get a candidate to respond, and then publicize those responses in some kind of way that and get the media involved in terms of the positions that ultimately the two-party candidates would take. So, but yeah, sure, forums are great.
Yeah, I'll add to that, that's something the Sierra Club does routinely, is sends out questionnaires to candidates. And for the purpose of leading ultimately to an endorsement or no endorsement. But we go through that. That's a standard procedure that we go through. And we would be happy to share that with other folks.
Yeah, I think also, this is Ria, we have on occasion done that kind of forum where we invite the candidates either for the primary, we could have a primary forum, or we could have for the general. It would be very good if other organizations as well would be part of this forum. We could now we can do it on Zoom. We used to have it at ESF. And it's nonpartisan in that we're asking them environmental questions. Right. So this may be something that Sierra Club can start for us and include other organizations as well.
Yeah, I think a good model I tend to recall was Greening USA and Focus Greater Syracuse partnered during like the mayoral debates with environmental sustainability. I think something again was also hosted in the mayoral event related to the up at ESF. I don't think Maureen Wakefield is there anymore, but she was integral in getting the media and having a televised debate as well. I think Maureen's in the Casanova area, may have some input there too.
She's with Al Sturpey's office now.
Yeah, so that's right. That's right, Ria. Thanks for that reminder.
Yeah, I see a note in the chat from Agree that says that they're not able to endorse a candidate, which is also the case for Greening USA. We're a 501c3 and we are not able to endorse a candidate, but we have hosted candidate forums just to ask questions and get answers. We did it, and it was also CNY Solidarity, Dick, thank you, that worked with us to do the last mayoral forum in Syracuse. And that's a great idea, is to, what happened was we collaborated with the Newhouse School up at SU, and the students videotaped it. So it was a great experience. Lots of people checked it out on our YouTube channel. So yeah, that's definitely a good path.
League of Women Voters often do that too.
Yeah, I just add to that as a focus board member that we've done that a number of times as well. And others have cooperated with us. But the strength of this group, Frank remembers that well too. We've done it a number of times, but and we also do not endorse a candidate. That's a policy. But I did want to say that the strength of this group, Central New York's Sustainability Coalition, is to have 20 groups ask for a forum and bring 20 groups of people to the forum. Focus is usually its office. I mean, there's where the silos. We need a big silo, not a bunch of small silos.
Yeah.
And that's where this group can be probably the most effective. It's a good idea.
And I think the equity, just ensuring that each candidate receives an invitation to participate, so you're even keeled and not, so you can be sensitive to any of that endorsing, candidates.
Yep.
And I think it would be great if, a dozen questions, critical questions, were given to the candidates before such a forum. You can do Q&A afterwards, but otherwise they can obfuscate, questions. Not that candidates won't try to do that anyway, but I think if there was some finely tuned, challenging questions that they received in advance, and everyone would know that, they would be assuming a responsibility to give a cogent answer, would be helpful.
That's right. And not that I am getting down into the weeds, but I've seen through the registration process to view the event or attend the event, having, if it's done early in advance, you can compile questions from the registrants, and then somebody would want to take on the role to to merge and purge if there's similar questions, paraphrase the questions, organize that, and to possibly feed that interest where the high interest is on the front end to those folks to prepare for remarks, and knowing that the questions would be related to those topics. Maybe not give them the verbatim question, but let them know this is what the audiences are interested in these issues. And then there's certainly from the groups, our participation in getting those questions in the hopper too.
Yeah, so what I am seeing here in this discussion is a basis for formation of a small working group that would be willing to work together to plan and organize these political forums for the year. So, I mean, that's a tremendous benefit of just getting here and talking today. And I suppose that's kind of like which is probably the model for the other working groups that there might be, for example, a group working on PFAS and policy for relating to PFAS disposal in the county's sanitary sewer system is a separate work a group. All of you are not going to want to work on a PFAS task force, but a number of us might choose to work on that aspect. So it seems to me that there is some momentum here and need to formalize, even if it's an formal or organizational structure. And it tells me we should continue to move forward and get people to put their name on a list as saying, I'm in. I will volunteer to participate in this type of a working group. Maybe that's an open-ended question, or we could create some categories, just possibility to get some feedback in the sign-on survey. And as the first step in going forward, get Dick to explain a little bit more about how to use the communication tools that he's set up. I suppose we need to say, okay, you can use our communication tools if you've signed up to be a member of the coalition, right? I mean, I think that has to kind of go all part and parcel, to it. But I guess we have to think through that. I suppose to keep it going. I talked about a steering committee, and I suppose there might be an interim steering committee, and then one that might be augmented later as the results of the survey come in and say, I would like to volunteer to be on the steering committee. So far, I would say the steering committee has more or less been Dick Kornbluth of CNY Solidarity, myself and Diane from Greening USA, Don Hughes at Sierra Club, and occasionally Peter Worth from CCAA, somewhat.
Dave Sonnenfeld.
And Dave has been our sort of non-affiliated organizational consultant here to help and give us, some very good ideas on how to make this happen. So, Dave, we appreciate your input and welcome it to continue.
So in the spirit of information sharing, in the chat, Peter McCarthy says that CNY Solidarity is already planning a Democratic candidate forum in February or March. Mm-hmm. So obviously for the Democratic candidates running for New York 22. So good to know. And this is all the kind of information that everyone needs to know before they run off and plan their own events.
And we will have further information in our newsletter, which all of you should be signed up for.
Yeah, and I did see the one you did over the weekend, but I totally forgot about going down to the rally on Saturday. Usually Saturday, I'm sort of in my own world of getting my own chores done, and I didn't come down. I think it was Saturday, right? The Rally for Democracy or something along those lines.
Yeah, a lot of people wondered where you were, John.
How was the turnout?
We had about 75 people there. It was good.
Oh, great. Good. Are there any other questions, thoughts here before we close? We're close to actually our appointed hour, 9 minutes remaining in that time, but we don't have to wait till 1:30 to close out. Are there any last thoughts that people want to share before we do say goodbye for today? I see Dave has got his hand up.
Thank you, John. I just wanted to, in addition to thanking you, suggest that my perception is that there has been agreement with your straw man proposal, and just explicitly ask if there are any questions or reservations about that. Otherwise, I think you have a mandate to proceed as you've outlined.
Yeah, thanks for raising that. And I guess are there any any objections or thoughts to proceed along those lines at this point in time? As Dave asks for.
David, thank you for raising that. That's exactly, it took the words out of my mouth. I thought we should do a little vote here. I'm all in favor of what you're proposing. I suspect others are too.
So is this, are there any opposed or any abstentions? I suppose we don't really need that. I mean, without word, I will assume it's consensus to proceed under that. And then we'll all get a survey of sorts to allow you to say, I'm in. I want to participate or not on the steering committee for, I'll volunteer to be on the steering committee, and a couple other questions about other organizations and or other inputs that you may have at this point in time.
What's I guess there's going to be task force, but what do you anticipate, or what do we anticipate the frequency of gathering would be?
I mean, I think that's up to you, Frank. Like, for example, if there's a group, I think it develops organically. If there's a group that says, yeah, we need to do we need to sort of plan the political calendar for the coming year, I think those folks should get together and plan that out. I don't see that. I mean, maybe the steering committee might instigate for a couple of things, but I wouldn't see. I mean, I think we can't rely on one leader or one small group of leaders to do everything, and so it's got to happen organically, right? And it's how whatever you could contribute would be appreciated.
So just to re-articulate, there's the subcommittee, task force, or whatever, the different issues or events or working towards this political education component. But in terms of the large this type of coming, is it a quarterly thing? What, in terms of when we gather as a full group, is it going to just be issue based, ad hoc, or we want to have some sort of regular convening on our calendars?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think answers to that need to be worked out. I would hope that there would be an occasional regular convening, and but yeah, that's a very good question. I don't think it needs to be monthly. So far, the way it's been happening, and I think we need to work out that communication thing. I've been trying to get an email communication out to the 25 people that I've had on the so-called distribution list for this, kind of keeping them informed of steps that we're taking, whether it was steps with the Micron DEIS or things like that. I've been busy recently, so there are ideas that I would like to share with the whole group that I haven't. Like, for example, there is a EPA webinar on Tuesday about PFAS regulation and policy. I think it's 1 o'clock or something like that on Tuesday. I would like to get everybody a copy of that in case they're interested in, listening to EPA people. But yeah, so those things about schedule and all that. Again, I think it happens organically. To sit here to try to figure it out and create a formal structure of meeting, I think would be counterproductive to keep things moving. But
yeah, and that's, I just want to broach a question. I think David had a nice suggestion in the chat saying maybe that's a good thing to include in the survey going out to folks in terms of their willingness and ability to participate, or suggestion of what makes sense to regularly convene the large group for information sharing opportunities.
Right. Yes. Good point. Thank you,
John. I just wanted to kind of add a couple of overview points again, and it comes from a lot of experience with Focus trying to plan similar kinds of goals. It's interesting because Focus is it's convener, communicator, many of the things we're trying to do here. But the strength of the coalition, as I've heard it outlined today, is that we want to make a bigger group for the total communities larger benefit. And I think it was a good suggestion to, Diane, send out the 12 traits in your survey, John, so that each of the groups can really nest into as many of the 12 traits as they would like. And you'll find they're different, and that's good. And that's how you break down a silo. So send that out, find an appropriate place. We're not telling them to join it and do only what that says. We're trying to look for each group to be comfortable with the role of their efforts within an overall community sustainable approach, which is the 12 traits, like I say, structure or backbone. And each of the groups then identifies its goals and issues that they really want to champion within that. That helps clarify doing everything all at once, all over again. That's what I'm fearful of, is that this group can't do everything of all the small groups, but it can communicate and coordinate so many groups, and that will be the success. The third point I had here, and I'm following your list, as David also mentioned, but I'm adding these kind of 3 steps. Ask each group to review the 12 traits, find what they like to nest into and champion. Number 2, identify key issues for them that they know where we all know where everyone is kind of in the overall lift, because we're all different as groups in general. And then identify roles of the coalition, which is it a convener, which is its strength? Is it a primary source to say, yeah, all these groups believe in this, or a position? So the convener aspect acts as a community large group convener, the big silo. And again, after we do what you said, John, the survey and so on, I think we'll be clearer about the next steps. I don't know that we have to do all the organization for mayoral debates and so on. If there's a cavity and we need to go there, a vacancy, we need to do it, then fine. But there's a lot going on. The strength is in so many groups doing so many good things. Let's build on that and communicate that better to lift the whole group. Thanks.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
Can I have one last comment? And I reluctantly bring it up because it's something I've worked on personally in groups that I've worked with over the years, and that is the lack of representation, participation by persons of color and indigenous people. And, sustainability, particularly for indigenous folks, is a leadership role that potentially can help inform all of us in some new and dynamic ways that we may not be in touch with. So I don't know on that score or on whether NYCLU has been formally invited to participate in this or not, but somehow I got to agree with the fact that we still struggle with these issues as primarily white folks.
Good point.
Yeah, good point. We haven't been in contact with NYCLU as part of our, formation over the past 6 months. Our work on Micron, but that's a good suggestion that they should be added to the list. We have in the past worked with the folks from NYCLU, so we do have some, experience with them. But thanks for bringing that up. It's a very important point. Peter.
I think we did reach out to Joe Heath's office, who works with the Onondaga Nation, and he was going to send a representative, but I don't see them. But it would be wonderful to engage with the Onondagas directly and folks on the HETF.
All right. Well, I think we've run out of time and we've exhausted many ideas. So thank you for being here. Let's close out the meeting, and I will intend to work with Dick and Don and Peter if he wants to, and to formulate the survey, and we'll get it out to the group, and do our best to keep you informed of the progress, and hopefully see each other very soon. For next month's Green Bag Lunch, I'm trying to work out something on land use planning type things in central New York, whether I can pull it off or not. In the meantime, so if anybody has any resources or contact, I've already had a tentative from Sam Gordon from Environmental Design and Research, whatever the name of his consulting design firm is, planning firm, to participate. So hopefully we'll get the rest, some of the other planners from the county and the city on a panel to talk about land use issues, planning for the arrival of chip fabs. So with that, I will say thank you all very much for your vocal and strong participation today.
Thank you. Great
All right.
meeting.
Yeah.
Great
Thanks,
meeting.
bye.